Welcome to another episode of How to Adult with Travis Walker. Make sure that you follow the podcast so that you never miss another episode and you never miss out on learning how to adult. That's what it's all about, y'all. So make sure that you're following. Make sure that you're sharing and liking and loving and rating and reviewing and all of those things so that the podcast can continue to grow. Y'all are amazing and I appreciate you listening. Let's continue to grow this podcast so that I can continue to make this content. Today's guest is another fraternity brother of mine. He is a fellow content creator. He makes different content though. He is a video game streamer. He's incredible. You have to go watch his stream at some point because it is amazing. With all that being said, his name is Taylor Brimer. His stream is T-Bone 5797. So make sure that you go check it out. Make sure that you also follow How to Adult TW on Facebook and Instagram. With all that being said, y'all, let's get into the show and learn how to adult. Taylor, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I haven't seen you in so long. It's so good to see you.
It's been 2 years, two and a half years. How long have we been out of school?
We've been out of school since 2019.
Oh, yeah. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute. I mean, when you move across the country, that happens.
Yeah.
I still love you. Well, I'm excited to have you on the show because I've been watching your streaming gig grow from when you started it to now. And so I think that we can learn a lot from you. But just so the listeners know, we're going to have a whole episode on content creation. And so, Taylor, you are a content creator. So tell us, what kind of content do you create?
Yeah. So, first of all, I'm excited to be here too. Thank you for having me, Travis. And it's awesome to be on a podcast, but I do mostly video game centered content. So basically the way that it works is I live stream 4 days a week, for 3 hours at a time. And then I take that and cut that into short clips that get posted in a lot of different places and full-length YouTube videos that I actually have an editor for and everything. So I pay an editor because he does a way better job than I do. But basically the goal is with streaming, you kind of have the fun and the interaction of live streaming of an audience because you have an active chat and they can talk to you and ask you questions. And we have things set up where they can like redeem these points that they earn to make me have, drinks or do jumping jacks or change my LED colors or all kinds of fun stuff like that. So you have the most fun while you're live, but you don't really grow. People don't really happen into the stream. They have to be there to begin with. So then you create content outside of Twitch. Twitch is the live streaming platform I use.
Right.
You create content outside of that to basically draw people into Twitch. And so that's why I post on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. I think that's everything. But I post on all four of them in an effort to bring more people to the live stream, to have more people to talk to. And that's kind of how it goes. And then you use the content of live streaming to edit and create videos and stuff outside of that.
That's incredible. A lot of this I didn't even know. So I knew you were doing streaming. I didn't know you were on TikTok and all that. So that's really cool. And so all of that, the social media aspect is promotion to bring people to the live stream. Is that correct?
Exactly. So unless you're monetized on YouTube, the only real way to make money, and I'm definitely a capitalist pig. I love money, which is one of the reasons I do this. It's a ton of fun, but I'm here for money. So you make your money on Twitch through people's donations. So Twitch has done a great job of setting up kind of a culture around having fun by financially supporting your favorite streamer. So you can watch completely for free, and it's more than acceptable to watch completely for free. No one on Twitch has ever asking for money. But if you want to support, you can be a paid subscriber. You can donate a kind of currency they have called bits, or I have a PayPal that's set up that you can donate straight to. And that's just to kind of help support your favorite streamer, because everybody that does it wants to be able to do it full time to some effect. And the more money you can give them, the more support they have, basically.
Right. That's really big. And I think that monetization of the podcast has definitely been on my mind. Before the show, we were even talking about making this some type of video. So it's definitely on my mind, and it seems like a lot of people in the Twitch world have figured it out, which is really cool. And so, would you say that most of the people on Twitch doing game streaming are monetizing well, or what is your kind of your analytics of what's going on in the Twitch world?
So you don't make a ton of money if you're small, and Twitch is definitely not built to support the small streamer, which is why it's a struggle. That's why you have to create content elsewhere.
Right.
So basically, if you log into Twitch and you pick a game you want to watch, you say, I want to watch Call of Duty Warzone, right? Because the biggest game out right now.
Sure.
They show you every single person streaming that right now, ranked from highest viewers to lowest viewers. So if you're small and you're not someone with 60,000 people watching you, because that's the kind of numbers we're talking about, is
right.
The best streamers can be upwards of 100,000 people at any one time. So you're ranked pretty low on the list. And even if you're more than three, so if you have more than 3 viewers at any one time, you're doing better than 90% of the streamers on Twitch. But even then, you're still so far down that list that it's almost impossible to, no one's going to scroll that far and find you, basically.
Right.
But you do have your kind of regular supporters that have found you and they tune in to you every night. So, for instance, I make about $100 every other month. Twitch waits to pay you out until you have $100 kind of in your account, if you will.
Yeah.
And they send it out. So I make about $100 every month. Sometimes I do things to increase it. Like I'll do giveaways and stuff where you get entered to win if you pay to subscribe or stuff like that to kind of help boost that number a little bit. But generally speaking, it's about $100 every month for someone small like me. And my average is between 5 and 8 people if you tune in any one time. But over the course of the stream is anywhere from 20 to 50 people over the course of 3 hours.
Okay. So this side hustle that you really have that's taking quite a bit of time. That's 12 hours a week, but you're bringing in about $600 a year if you keep this up. I like that. I think that's really good, and there's a lot of opportunity to grow. And so you talked a little bit about your motivation before, but I'd like to just really dig into what was your motivation when you started this? Why did you become a video game streamer? Out of everything else that you could have done in life as a side hustle, you chose video game streaming. Why did you pick that?
So it's kind of funny you ask. So I actually was at lunch with a coworker, and I've always been interested in additional forms of income because everybody has their job, right? But that's unless you own the business, that's a very limited income stream. You're never going to make a ton of money. So I've always been interested in that. I had lunch with a coworker and I was kind of talking about it and how I was interested in it. And I had never even watched Twitch, but I knew people streamed on Twitch. And I said, I think it's something I want to try. I think it could be fun. But I just don't know if I want to do it. And there were drinks involved. There was alcohol involved. And my coworker said, just what's the worst that can happen, right? Just do it. So I got home and drunkenly set up a Twitch channel. And that's why we were kind of talking at the beginning of this with my username isn't exactly what I wanted it to be, because I didn't think it would be something that I'm this passionate about. So I just made an easy username that wasn't taken. But I started streaming, and I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for one person. It was actually a fraternity brother of ours, Nick Pugh, excuse me. And he made several different accounts to watch me on to try and boost my numbers. And he would watch every day, the whole stream, all 2 hours of it, for a pretty long while until we got to what's called affiliate. So
yeah,
basically Twitch doesn't monetize you until you are affiliated with them. And there's a few requirements that you have to meet. If you want me to go into those, I can. But until I hit those requirements, a lot of my support was from Nick's 3 accounts.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That makes a lot of sense. And we love Nick Pugh. Nick Pugh is one of my grand littles. So that's really cool that he did that for you. And so I would like to know a little bit about how much does it take to become an affiliate on Twitch to where you can start monetizing your effort on the app.
Sure. So let me actually open it up because I think the rules might have changed since I did it. Let's see. So reach 50 followers, stream for 8 hours, which that's easy because as long as you can stream as long as you want, doesn't matter.
Right.
Stream on 7 different days and have an average of 3 viewers. So that means that if I tune in at any time, you'll have 3 people in there on average. It can go a little more, a little less.
Sure.
And all those have to be complete at the same time within a 30-day period. So you can't have, three without the fourth. And for me, what my struggle was the 50 followers. I got fairly lucky with Nick, and then I had some people that came over from TikTok actually. So the average I got kind of quickly. The 50 followers was hard because, like I said, it's very hard to be noticed on Twitch. But yeah, that's what it takes. And then you get a little thing in your email. You basically do a tax form because then you're a contract worker. So you have to, you have to file your taxes and all that stuff, set in your payment, and then, they start paying you out. So, but you have to hit that $100 mark. It's not like every time someone gives you money, it goes straight to there, but Twitch takes a giant cut of everything. And another kind of frustrating part is that Twitch it's all based on people's generosity to you. So like YouTube is just pure views, right? They have ad revenue based on views and you get paid off of that. Well, Twitch takes 90% of the ad revenue. So you don't really get anything out of that. It's almost all people's generosity.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And of course, there's limitations to using these platforms. And so I think that's really helpful. And so with your video game streamer, what video games are we talking about here? You mentioned Warzone earlier. I love Warzone. Mm-hmm. And so are there other games as well?
So yes, there's a ton. I've streamed a great number of things. Right now I do things actually a little different. I noticed there was kind of as the pandemic was drawing to an end and people were going out more and people weren't spending all night in their homes. I noticed a little bit of a downturn in viewership. And I really thought of how do I fix that? How do I make it more interactive? How do I make it a better experience for people? So now we do a completely different thing. I actually let my community pick each and every game that I play. So also community is a big part of Twitch. It definitely, even if you're small like me, the people that you see every night, I mean, you got to think you spend 2-3 hours with these people every single night, or the nights that you stream. And so it does create kind of a tight knit community feel. So my community is called the Steak Gang, or Steak Community, either way, steak from T-Bone. And they're a wonderful set of people. And I've got people from all age ranges. And then I've actually got people in the UK, people in Scotland, people in the Philippines, South Korea. I've got a lot, which is fun. But basically, I allow them to pick. We have a Discord server, which is basically a big group message that we have. You're actually in it now. Congratulations.
Yes, I am.
You never have to do anything with it at all if you don't want. But yeah, so I put votes in there, and sometimes I'll pick a few different things that I'm interested in and then have them suggest things, or sometimes it's just whatever is the hot thing at the moment. But yeah, I let them pick and they tell me what to play. And then that also, I do that all the way through and then we pick a new one. So right now it's Resident Evil. We've been on a horror kick recently. People really like watching me play horror games. I think it's to torture me. So we did a couple. It's your
scream. It's got to be the squeal.
It is. And then Kennedy likes to sneak up on me. And because I have these headphones on, so I can't hear anything. So she'll sneak up on me and yell at me. And scares the shit out of me. But so right now it's mostly horror games, but I play whatever the people want me to play. And that's been a lot of fun because then it also gives people a reason to tune in because they literally picked what I'm playing.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I like the community aspect to it. I think that's really huge. I think that's another thing I'm trying to figure out at some point as a content creator myself. And so that's really awesome. So you let your community pick every game that you play, or is there like a knee jerk, like I'll just play this if I need to create some content?
So not so much anymore. We only started the letting them choose thing maybe like 2 months ago. So I've been pretty happy with what they pick. And sometimes it's like we did a whole, pretty much a month of Minecraft where we opened up a realm to anyone that wanted to join. And we actually had the people in there playing with us and we would do community builds. So we would decide, hey, we want to build a fighting arena or whatever. And we would all, I would task people with certain things. We would find the resources. We would build that. So it can be anything. And also you don't have to play games on Twitch. There's a lot of people that make music or they just sit there and talk. There's the hot tub streams. If you haven't heard of those are something.
I bet.
So basically people found a loophole that Twitch says you cannot wear. So you can't wear skimpy clothing with Twitch. You have to be fully clothed.
Okay.
Unless you're in a context appropriate place, like a pool, a beach, or whatever. So people, and when I say people, I mean women, would put a little inflatable kiddie pool in their stream room and then be in bikinis And that's how they got away with it, right? And then a bunch of guys would come and shower them with money, and they made a shitload of money. So that's, for instance, one thing you can do. Last night we did just chatting, so that's what the category is called when you just talk. So it was me sitting here, and then I had my girlfriend next to me, and we just talked for 2 hours about whatever, and the chat asked us questions. We told stories. I made probably poor choices and said I would take a shot for every gifted sub. They ended up being 14. I did not make it. I didn't take the 14 shots.
You didn't take the 14. What'd you make it to?
I don't know, 6. It wasn't a lot. Wasn't 14.
We're not in college anymore, I guess.
No, and then I ate a whole pint of ice cream, and then I threw up still cold ice cream, which is a very interesting feeling, by the way. I don't know if you've ever experienced that.
I've never experienced that.
Oh, you should. Get hammered, eat a full pint of ice cream, and then, that, beer, gin, it really mixes together to a wonderful sorcerer's potion.
You could probably make like cheese out of that. I don't know.
It was not the ending to my night I expected, but it was fun. So yeah,
that does
stuff
sound
like
a
that.
lot of fun.
And I try to make it interesting and keep evolving. So we've also done where I did the Pocky one chip challenge, which is the hottest chip ever made. I actually have it here behind me, which was hell on earth. And then someone said that they would donate $50 if I didn't drink milk for 20 minutes or whatever it was. So made $50 that night. And then one time I wore a shock collar and played Warzone. And for every $5 that was donated, Kennedy would administer a shock, which was not, I will never do that again. That was terrible. It was a lot of fun for other people.
Yeah.
But no, I made more though per hour doing that than I do at my regular job that night. There's been a couple of occasions where I've done that, and that was one of them.
That's pretty incredible. I remember the shot collar stream. That was entertaining to say the least.
Yeah. I'm pretty sad because that was before I had a PC set up and I knew how to edit and I knew how to record and everything. So I don't have any of that footage anymore, which kind of sucks, but
yeah,
I wish I did.
Well, you just hinted at this just now, and I want to talk about it because a lot of people get into this and they want to do it because it's fun, because they can make a little bit of money. But there's a lot of valuable skills that you can learn from doing stuff like this. Even starting the podcast, I've learned a lot just on editing and talking and public speaking. And so what kind of valuable skills have you gotten from starting your stream?
So it makes you pay attention to a lot of things at once, right? Because you've played video games before, they can be extremely engrossing, but you also, to be successful, you can't just ignore people. So you have people in chat that are asking you questions or talking to you. You've got to talk to them. You've got to make it entertaining for them, because I'm not near good enough to play the game and just have them be amazed at my skill. So I have to make it engaging. So that's one thing. You got to pay attention to a lot of things. It's made me more personable than I already am, because you don't even have someone's face to look at. You're literally just seeing their text on the screen that you have to talk to them. And a big part of it is drawing people in, right? So if someone pops in and says, hey, you got to ask them questions that are engaging and not intrusive, that make them want to stay, right? And then as far as technical skills, so I have done a ton of research. I actually have a whole studio around me right now. I know it's just audio, but I've got ring lights and RGB lights and 2 monitors, and I've got a professional microphone, and camera, and I've got a $1,000 PC in front of me that does everything. I've got a lot of equipment that I therefore had to learn how to make work, right? Because you're capturing something that you're playing on an Xbox or PlayStation or even on a PC, and you're broadcasting it out to the internet live at, some people do full 1080p, 60 frames a second video. And so you have to learn all of that. I had to learn a ton about internet, because I found out that when we got here, there was actually a problem with our internet service here. So we paid for the highest, great internet, but there was something in the lines that was wrong, and it took a long time to get it figured out. So you have to learn equipment. And then obviously social media is a huge thing. You've got to learn how to manage Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, all that stuff. And then editing. So I edit all my short clips that are under a minute myself, because I think it's good to know how to do. But as far as the full length YouTube stuff, I actually pay someone to do that. So it's now like a little business where I have income and outgo, and I have to make sure I'm not spending too much. And I only ever spend what has been generated by streaming. And so I have to track that. A little bit of financial stuff that comes in, and then obviously you've got to learn to make thumbnails and make logos and God knows what else. So it has been a huge process, and no one does it alone, right? Well, it's been one of the most amazing things is there's people that I met along the way that know more than me, and they've helped me, get all this stuff out. So yeah, there's a ton of technical skills and even more soft skills that you have to learn to do this. It's pretty amazing.
That's huge. That's huge. And a lot of people need to learn these skills. And so I think it's hard for people when you're small to find other people that are willing to do small things to help you. Mm-hmm. Like being a small business and hiring out something that's really hard for people. So how did you find this person that's doing some of your editing for you?
So actually the person that's editing for me, it was Instagram. I posted a couple things on Instagram, and they liked it and they followed, and then they eventually came by a stream and we got to talking, and that person said, hey, I want to be a full-time YouTuber one day. That's my goal. Right. But I don't stream, so I don't have any content to edit. Yeah. I would edit your content for free if you let me. And I let him do one video, and then I felt bad. I wasn't going to take advantage of the kids. So I said, you know what, I'll give you $10 a video, which is not much, but it's something. Right. And it's just like I say with video game, like if you're going to do it, so I'm going to play video games either way, right? I love video games, always have. I'm going to play either way. If I can broadcast myself doing it and use that time to meet more people, grow my own skill set, and make a little money, why wouldn't you? So same with this guy. His name is Romeo. That's not his actual name. That's what his username is. Yeah, he wants to be a full-time YouTuber one day, and he needed stuff to edit. So I said, absolutely. And he puts out great product. I love the guy. So that's how I met him. And then I've also met a ton of people just through other streamers. So Discord's actually a big thing. I mentioned it earlier, but almost every streamer, and it may not be a bad idea for you to do with your podcast. Most content creators have a Discord server, which is pretty much like a big group message. So basically you can have different channels in there that you can talk about specific things. Like we have one where you can catch fake Pokemon, and we have one that you can ask tech support questions. And we have one that you can, talk about whatever book you're reading or whatever it is. You can make it whatever you want. Right. So I've just kind of hopped into other streamers' channels that I've met, and maybe I happened on them by accident. Maybe they've followed me. Maybe I've found them on other social media. I joined their Discord, and that just opens it up to even more people to meet. So I have what I call my tech support crew, which is made up of other streamers that know a lot more than I do. And I think, I couldn't be here at all without them, because they helped me with the whole PC stuff and what equipment to buy. And they've been extremely helpful. And then they're also streamers, so I go and support them when I can, and they support me, and it's a really wonderful, mutually beneficial relationship.
Yeah, this is what you're talking about is basically just networking, which is really cool. And an episode that I want to do is all about networking, because it's really important. But as young people, we are terrible at it, because we'd much rather scroll through Instagram, and we much rather, scroll through Facebook, whatever we're doing, or TikTok. And so I'm going to do a full episode on networking, but I got to find a person to come on and talk about it. So if you're good at networking, I'm looking for you. So hit me up in the DMs. But I want to know about the status of T-Bone today. What's going on in terms of viewership, in terms of other things. And then I want to get into some more broad topics in terms of streaming. So what's the status of T-Bone today?
Sure. So basically each platform is kind of on an island. So like I do better on some than others, and they don't necessarily all grow at the same pace. Probably if you go by pure followers, TikTok's my most successful platform. I have 2,800 followers on TikTok. And most of those came from a couple of videos that blew up to really high levels. So I have 2 or 3 videos over 100,000 views. Wow. One's at 150,000. And then that's the most successful one. On Twitch itself, though, because everything is about Twitch. Everything is about bringing people over to Twitch. I enjoy making the content elsewhere, but it's all about bringing it over there. I'm going to do a shameless plug. It's T-Bone 5797. If anyone wants to watch. But anyway,
so you got to go to Twitch. T-Bone 5757. That is where you need to go. Shameless plug. We love it.
That's right.
Continue.
So just for example, I'll actually pull yesterday's stream. So this is real data, straight from yesterday's stream. So total of 22 unique people came in over the course of a 2-hour stream. I did it a little shorter than usual because I was drunk, which is what it is. 17 people actually said something in that stream. And then the average over the course of it was about 6, which doesn't sound like much, right? You hear that and you're like, only 6 people? Who fucking cares? How many people have ever watched you play a video game? It's not a lot. So it's definitely, you need... And I have to remind myself a lot about this. You have to give yourself the room to grow. You have to give yourself the courtesy of, yeah, the average was 6 people, but that's more than it was when I started. That's more than it was before this, right? And I had 13 paid subscriptions. You get paid out half of the cost of that subscription. So the cost is $5. If they do multiple, you can be, a little lower. So you get between $2 and $2.50 for 13. So I can't do the math of 2.5 times 13 in my head, but 2 is, about 26, about $30. So
yeah,
I made $30 last night playing a game, which I didn't, I'm going to play either way. You might as well enjoy it, make some money, reach out. But even beyond that, I think a lot of the intangibles are more important. So when I tell people what I love about streaming, I love connecting with people. I love the sense of community that we've gotten. And there's actually been more than once where someone has approached me and DM'd me and said, hey, I don't know how to say this, but I was in a really dark place. I was pretty depressed. I had thoughts of suicide, and I found you, and you're somewhere to be every day. And I just can't say enough how much I appreciate having you. And so that's actually happened on more than one occasion. It's never something I thought I would deal with, right? When I started, I just thought I'd be playing video games in front of maybe some people. And then when you hear, people say stuff like that, it means a lot, because I don't think I deserve that kind of credit. I don't think I can say that I saved anybody's life or anything like that, but just having a place to be when someone is going through something actually is really important. And that's why, I don't really take a lot of time off. I stick to my schedule very strongly, because I know that even though not a ton of people are watching me, there are kids in there that, they could be going through some stuff right now. And I'm a place to be, like I said. So that's kind of the state it is right now. Our community is super strong. I really love it. And that's been the biggest X factor for me on why I enjoy this, is getting to actually do some good. We even did some charity streams where we raised, I think $750 one time and $500 another.
Wow.
For different charities. And it's a lot more than just playing video games in front of people. Let me just say that.
That's huge. You're taking a something like you said that you're gonna do anyways, and you're making it mean more than just sitting there and wasting time on video games. That I think that's super huge. Did it start out that way? Like, were you trying to save the world, or did it just become that Taylor was saving the world?
No, to be clear, I don't think Taylor's saving the world right now. But it just started as I wanted a little extra income. I went from, so my job is project based, right? So my real job.
Okay.
So I went from one project that was very time consuming and very stressful to one that was a little calmer, and I got off at the same time every day. And I can't sit still to save my life. So I was kind of bored, and I said, now I've got this time in the evening, I want to do something with that. And so it really was, I started, and I would be extremely happy if one person popped in, right? Just to say hi. But it eventually has grown since then into, like I said, I spend time with these people 4 days out of my life, for 3 hours at a time.
Yeah.
You get to know them, you get to know what they're struggling with. And I've seen people that I knew, like, for instance, I watched them, not literally watched them, but go from getting their learner's permit, learning how to drive, getting their driver's license, and getting their first car, right? Super exciting stuff like that.
Sure.
And there's also, it's not just kids, there's also a ton of adults. So like right now, there's a longtime viewer and follower of mine that was in the military, that's away from his family. And he was in stream every night, because he couldn't do anything else. And he's actually getting to go back home to his family this weekend. And he's sending us photos in Discord of showing him hanging out with his kids and on a lake and having a great time. And I'm just super happy for him that he gets to do that. But I also know him from streaming and stuff like this. So it has been a very good, it's not that we're saving the world or anything, but it's just been a very good way to make real, genuine connections with people over the internet. A lot of people say the internet is a bunch of fake people that, don't look like or don't act like who they are or whatever. But I've made some truly genuine and amazing friendships over the internet. And I'm surrounded by stuff that has been sent to me. So there's a streamer friend that I have that's in California, and we send little gift boxes to each other back and forth. And I'll share some of that stuff that I have for the rest of my life. Right. So
that is so cool.
Yeah, it's definitely amazing. I mean, I have his, he sends out stickers. I have one of his stickers on my hard hat at work, and everybody's like, what is that fucking, but it's him. It's my buddy. So I get to carry him.
That's really cool. And something coming into this interview I didn't realize was the strength of the community that you're building and the impact on that. I think that's really important. You mentioned your job and you mentioned Kennedy a few times. So I want to talk about you're spending 12 hours a week on streaming. You're also, and then you also have your job. I'm not sure how many hours you're working on your job, but so I want to talk about just time balance a little bit, because that's a pretty full schedule right there, right? Full-time job, and then also 12 hours of streaming, and then also having a significant other. How do you balance all of this? And does that cause any issues in your life?
It has, and it definitely can if you don't respect the boundaries that you put in place. So my biggest takeaway, and it's only really been recently, is that you have to allot time for things, right? You allot time for work, you allot time for this, you allot time for your significant other, you allot time for yourself. That's a really huge thing that I took a long time to learn. But basically that's why my schedule is the way it is I was actually streaming more recently. I was streaming Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And the days in between are fine, but then you get to where you're 3 or 4 days in a row, you're getting to that Sunday, Monday, and it just feels exhausting. Because even though I love doing this, you're literally in front of people broadcasting yourself. And so you're putting on a bit of a show. You have to have a good attitude. You have to be happy to see people. And it is straining, right? So I figured out that there were a couple different things I could do, but one was to take out Sunday and go from 2 hours to 3 hours. So I actually gained time streaming, which is great because we have people in different time zones. So if I'm streaming for longer, I can pick up different audiences a lot easier.
Right.
But then also I have Sunday to myself. So basically kind of my rule is, obviously work is Monday through Friday. Usually like 7 or 8 to 4 or 5, kind of depending on how busy I am. I'm salary, so I can kind of do what I want, but then I get home, I hang out with Kennedy, which is my significant other, for an hour or so. I start streaming at 7 o'clock now. It's my new schedule. But then there's also a ton of stuff you have to do, like editing and, putting together stuff for your Discord. There's a ton of stuff you have to do outside of that. So Tuesday night, when I'm not streaming, Tuesday is when I do all my editing for the week. So I'll sit down for a couple hours and edit between, 7 to 10 clips and kind of see how I want to do that. And then Thursday is date night, right? So we have a dedicated date night. It's always date night. We never do anything else on date night. We always do something, whether it's just going out to dinner, or going to see a movie, or even just, getting pizza and watching the new Marvel or Disney show, whatever it is. We allot time that we both respect to spend with each other. And then, Sunday is the same thing. I allot time for myself. I do what I want to do. A lot of people give me a lot of grief for this, but I take bubble baths. That's one of my things I do to relax. So I actually every Sunday take a bubble bath, take a book in there, chill out for an hour or two, just marinate in my own juices, and have a good old time. But yeah, it's very important that was probably the biggest takeaway, is you have to schedule for yourself, which a lot of people don't think of. They think they just need to schedule. And it applies to anything, right? If you're in college, you have to schedule time for studying. You have to schedule time for your activities. You have to schedule time for class, whatever. Do you schedule time for yourself? Do you make it to where you can relax and do the things that you need to do to succeed in all these other areas? Because it is very important that you are in a good place mentally and physically.
Oh, that's huge. That's huge. And the bubble bath is so cute. I love that.
Listen, I treat me right. All right.
You do treat you right, and you always have. And so I've seen Kennedy in a few streams, and I've seen her on your social media and whatnot. So what role does Kennedy play in the streaming aspect? Because I know that she does. I'm just not sure at what capacity.
So she doesn't have anything defined. It's not a partner stream. Some people do that where they always stream with their partner and they've got 2 cameras and 2 microphones. And we don't do that. Usually, so she plays video games herself. So if we have a game that's multiplayer that she's interested in, she'll play with myself and our friends. We have a friend group that we stay in contact with. And actually, it's that's another super cool thing that I forgot to mention. So streaming has given me not only this access to all these other people, but it's brought me closer to old friends, because I do post on social media and people say, oh, hey, I'll stop by, and then they want to play. And so we have a group that is actually, it's a Snapchat group, but it's people all the way from people I went to middle school with, to high school, college. Several fraternity brothers are in there, people that I work with now. And it's, I think 8 people, and we all play together. So that's how we stay in contact.
That's awesome. The fraternity has been so supportive, even in my podcast. It's incredible. The last 4 episodes have been fraternity brothers. So yeah, the fraternity has been very supportive of both of our content creation, I would say.
Yeah, and I mean, people genuinely want to see other people succeed. And not a lot of people are doing what we do, right? A lot of people think about doing it, but not a lot of people do it. So you will have a lot of supporters just from your normal day-to-day life. So Kennedy's been hugely supportive. Actually, she she watches sometimes. She doesn't watch a ton, but she does give me that time and space to do this. Because it's hard, right? That's time sacrifice from her. So she is either playing with us or she sometimes sits and we'll play 2-player games. That's right now the community voted, and we're playing a split screen co-op game. So we're both playing. You can see both of our faces and our little characters or whatever. And then sometimes she just, sits down and watches, but she doesn't have an official role, but she's been very supportive. And I've actually talked to some other streamers where they don't allot that time to their partner, and it causes a lot of issues in their relationship. So I actually know someone in the UK that they're getting a divorce right now because they decided their dream was streaming and their partner didn't think it was a worthwhile dream, and they couldn't see eye to eye on that. So,
wow.
And he reached out to me and said, "Hey man, you're so lucky to have a partner that respects this and is involved in it and allows you to spend this much time." And I was like, absolutely. I absolutely am very fortunate in a lot of ways, but that's one of them.
Yeah. It just goes again to the strength of your community. I'm just like so surprised and astonished by the strength of your community. Even like sharing that's a very intimate thing, like sharing that they're getting a divorce. And so I'm so surprised at the strength and vulnerability in your community. That's huge. And does your community like seeing Kennedy? Do they enjoy her presence? And
They do, yeah. So they enjoy seeing Kennedy. They enjoy seeing Penny, our dog. Most people would argue they like seeing them more than me, which is fair. But yeah, it's been fun. I've had people drop in at random and ask if it was my stream or her stream whenever we're both on screen. And I say, "Oh, it's mine." They say, "Oh, does she stream?" I'm like, "Not really. She's with me." And they will unfollow it. They'll be like, "All right, I'm out. I'm not here for this. I'm here for women." It happens kind of more often than you'd think. But for every one of those, you have 100 people that are supportive and just enjoy seeing both of us. And you got to think you're sharing 3 hours of your life 4 days a week, right? So it's perfectly logical to have her on and for people to like her because she's an extension of me.
Right. So you mentioned a few times kind of the environment of Twitch in terms of like men only being there to see women in bikinis and then not wanting to follow you if it's not Kennedy's stream. Is this just part of the environment or is this normal or what is your assessment of that aspect of what you're talking about?
So I will say, and I feel like I'm qualified to say this since I do post on most major social medias, I will say that Twitch is by far the most supportive, the most welcoming, the most inclusive platform that I've ever been on the internet.
Wow.
By far. There are outliers, right? Like the people we mentioned. There's also people that will hop in and say, "Hey, can I play this game with you?" And I have told them so we used to do viewer game days, and I'll probably bring it back at some point where every Friday we would play with anyone that wanted to. But I haven't done that in a while, but they would hop in and say, "Hey, can I play with you?" And say, "You know what? I'm not doing that right now. I'm just playing with my friends. But on Friday, if you want to come back, I'd be more than happy to run some games with you." And they say, "Nope." And they'll unfollow right there.
Wow.
But that's an outlier. That's not the norm. The norm is that they're very accepting of all people, genders, races, ethnicities, backgrounds, whatever. Twitch is an extremely accepting platform. There are some people that use it that only want to see women in skimpy clothing. Obviously, that's not my kind of content.
Sure.
So I'm not really worried about not having them. But in general, it's by far the nicest. And YouTube is by far the meanest. Funny enough, I don't know what makes it that way, but yeah, YouTube. There's some sons of bitches on YouTube.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's interesting to know. And so a big thing about content creation that I've seen, and a big thing about just business in general, is that you have to make yourself unique. You have to be different from somebody that's doing the exact same thing that you are. And so, what are you doing that you think is unique from the people that are doing the same kind of content that you're creating?
That's kind of tough because that's something that I'm still searching for.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing problem, right? Of how do you separate yourself? I would say that my biggest strengths and what make me unique are obviously not gameplay. So some people play and they're just amazing at a certain game, and that's why you watch them, because you want to get better. That's not me. That's not my style.
Sure.
I'm not good enough at any of it. Nor do I really want to be, right? My strong suit, I believe, is my ability to attract people and make people feel welcome and bring one into a group. Right. And that's what's helped me the most. So the problem with that, though, is that it doesn't make it very easy to market yourself unless someone's already there in chat and you can talk to them. But that's what I would say, is that it's very much more about just being a genuine good person, being accepting of anyone, being having a platform that allows people to express themselves honestly and openly. There's a couple rules in my chat that I have that will result in a ban if you violate them. Stuff like no politics, obviously no hate speech. I won't allow anyone to be mean to anyone else in my chat. Some of it's joking, right? We're all friends, so we'll kind of riff each other. But if anyone's being truly detrimental to the group vibe,
right,
I'll yank them out immediately. And I have full control over that. So you actually, on Twitch, if you ban someone, not only does it never allow them to see you again, but it deletes all the messages they've ever sent. So that's kind of the cool thing, is if you don't like what somebody's doing, fuck them, get them out of there.
Right. And that probably goes to the sense of you saying the very strong comment of Twitch is by far the most accepting platform that you've been on, which I think is a pretty strong comment. So that's really big. And so thinking about, you've talked about the struggle of trying to make yourself unique, and kind of thinking about people that may want to do what you do. Who should be doing this? And also, I also want to talk about who should not be doing what you're doing.
No, I hear you. So when I first started, I said anyone should do this, right? If you have an Xbox or a PlayStation or a Nintendo Switch, you can stream directly from it with no problems, right? You don't have to have all the equipment that I do. Obviously, it makes it easier, but when I started, it was just an Xbox and the headset that I'm wearing right now, and a cheap $60 webcam, right? And I originally said that anyone should do it. I have since changed my mind.
Okay.
You should only do it if you are the type of person that you want to be in front of people, because I am that type of person and I am an attention whore. Not everybody else is, right? Which is probably good, because you can't have a bunch of me and yous running around in the world. It would be a terrible place.
Right.
So I would say, if you want to be in front of people, if you like being the center of attention, it is absolutely for you. You should not do it. And let me be clear, even if you are a little bit anxious about putting your face in front of people or whatever, I still think you should give it a try, right? And it's up to you to determine if it's not for you or not.
Right.
Because it's one thing to be a little self-conscious. It's another thing to not want to open up your life to other people, because that's what you're doing, right? Especially, you're honestly not going to succeed without a webcam. That is kind of the thing you need. And so you think about it, you're opening up yourself to other people. And it's not just you, it's your room and everything that's behind you and anybody that walks in frame or whatever. People that should not stream are people that are going to be assholes, because no one is good enough at a game for you to convince people to spend 1, 2, 3 hours with you if you're a douchebag. Right. So you have to be generally friendly and accepting and open to people, because they are spending time with you. And that's something you need to be aware of and respectful of. So these people, they could be doing anything they want right now, and they're watching you do other shit. Right? They can go do that shit,
right?
But they're not. There's a reason they're watching you. And most likely it's because you're funny, you're entertaining, you're welcoming, whatever it is. But if you're going to be none of those things, no, you should not stream. You should just play video games with your friends, which is more than fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But there is definitely a line of, whether or not you should put yourself in front of people.
Yeah, I think that's right. And so basically what you're saying is that if you're not putting on a shock collar, you should not be a streamer. Is that what you're saying?
Not at all. Not at all. I actually suggest you don't put on the shock collar, because it was terrible. And I think it's technically against the rules, but I wasn't big enough to be caught. So
Right. That's so funny. No cop, no stop. Nice. So sticking with that same type of question, what do you think is the hardest thing about streaming, and what do you think is the easiest thing about streaming?
The hardest thing. So there's the hardest thing short term and the hardest thing long term, which I'm going to answer separately. So long term, it's that it is a ton of work if you want to grow. So like I want to grow. I don't have any delusions that I'm going to be the next Nick Merckx or Dr. Disrespect or someone that is a household name with 60 to 80,000 people watching them at any one time. I'm under no delusion of that. But I would just like to have consistent new faces in chat. So that's what I consider growth, right? Just consistent new people to meet and talk to. And the biggest struggle is sometimes that doesn't happen.
Right.
Sometimes your content isn't pushed out. That's not under your control, right? You can make whatever you want, but how it's seen by people, how many people see it, if that particular algorithm picks up that particular video on that particular day, that's not in your control. And so it can be a struggle to stay motivated sometimes when you're draining so much time and energy into something that you believe will be good, but you haven't proof tested as good yet.
Yeah.
That's the biggest long-term struggle. The biggest short-term struggle day to day, especially if you're just starting out, is just talking, because like when you just start out, no one's watching. So you can definitely get in the habit of just playing the game and responding if there's a message, but there's people that watch that don't want to say something to you. And that was the weirdest thing for me to wrap my head around, because I'm just a talkative person, right? If I'm going to be watching somebody, you're damn sure I'm going to be talking to them. But some people just want to put it on and relax and listen to you. And I have people that have been following me for almost a year that I see in the stream a lot, but never say anything. They just like hanging out, and so you have to talk all the time, even when there's not someone talking back. You have to be saying something to engage, even if no one is saying something back to you. That's probably the shortest, the hardest short-term struggle of streaming. The easiest thing, it's very easy to love. It's very easy for that bell in your brain to go off when you receive money while playing video games, right? It's very easy to enjoy, but you have to remind yourself that not every stream is going to be better than the last.
Right.
Sometimes you have a really great stream and you should accept that and revel in it and be happy about that, but don't expect the next one to be exactly like that, because it may not. People have lives, right? People are doing other shit. You're again asking them to take time and watch you, and they have no obligation to. So you just have to remember.
Yeah. I think that's really big. And also, I kind of want to talk about the early days, and maybe in a lot of ways you're still there today, but the early days when the data's not there, the viewership's not there, how do you fight through that time?
It's all about support, right? So if you can find one person, whether it's your girlfriend, your mom, a good friend of yours, whatever, one person to spend some time in chat with you, talking to you, that's what's most important. Because I definitely had, a month of a couple of messages coming through, and you're just playing by yourself. And I vividly remember, now I hide the numbers from me while I'm streaming. So while I'm streaming, I don't actually know how many people are watching, because I noticed that it affected my behavior a lot. But back then, if I went from 0 to 1 viewer, I immediately got super excited and would ask them a ton of questions. And then more often than not, they weren't ready for all those questions, and I would go back down to 0.
Okay.
So in the early days, it's just, find some genuine connections. You'll always start with people. It's never like your first huge supporter is a person off the internet, right? You always start with somebody. So just find somebody and post on your social media. Everybody's got Instagram and Snapchat. Post on those and say, I'm going live if you want to watch. And you'll get probably some people come through. They won't be there the whole time. They won't give you money, but that's fine. You don't need that.
Right.
You just need someone to be there, just to be on the other end of that screen that is there.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And it's really hard for content creators to keep going in that early stage. But what I'm hearing you saying is that it's important to keep yourself going, but then also kind of protect yourself, protect your mental health, and protect your attitude towards having low viewership, so that you'll keep going, because that viewership will come. Is that kind of what you're talking about here?
Absolutely. I'm right now in a little bit of a downturn compared to, so there was a few months ago where I was averaging 8 to 10 people every day. And I was doing a lot of different things. I was basically spending a lot of time in other people's channels, and then they would therefore spend time back in mine, but they would just basically put it on and leave it. It wasn't genuine interaction. It wasn't genuine support. It was, you did something for me, I'm going to click that button for you. Right.
Okay.
So that is something that I have to remind myself even today of, views are a little down, but people are going out more. The world is open again. I started this during the pandemic and I started this during lockdown where no one could go anywhere and do anything, right? So I obviously did better at that time because there wasn't anything to go do, and now there's stuff to go do. And I decided to make a shift of, I'm not going to do things that help me short term. I'm going to build to the long term. So instead of spending that time watching someone else and maybe getting one viewer out of that, I'm spending time making more content, and maybe I'll get, 2, 3, 4, 5 viewers out of
Right.
that, or whatever it is. I had someone just last night say, hey, I saw you on TikTok. I really liked it. I wanted to stop by. They stopped by. They had a lot of fun with us in chat. They followed me on Instagram. Now we have maybe a longer term supporter. Whereas if I just had watched someone else's stream so that they would watch mine, I would just have that one person that leaves me tabbed up for a couple hours that doesn't actually help me.
Right. Right. That's really big and really important. So if you are a content creator out there, make sure that you're fighting through the early days, because the early days are hard and they're meant to be hard, and there's nothing that you can do to get around it. But you got to keep going. You got to keep trying. That I think that's really good advice. So we're gonna get into the closing questions. So we've talked for a little while now. It always sneaks up on me. But I make all of my guests define a word. All right. And
Okay.
so this is going to be submitted to the Webster Dictionary, so you need to be prepared for the best answer, okay? And so we are going to define the word authentic.
It's a good one.
Yes. A good one for you.
So I know I can be, thank you, I try. I know I can be long-winded, so I'll try and wrap this up in a nice little bit.
Nice.
Being authentic is just being whoever you are and who you want to be for yourself. Don't put on a show. Don't pretend to be something you're not. Don't pretend to have knowledge you're not. Be humble and be exactly who you are, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. It's be who you are. That's the best I can say.
I love that. And should we be striving to be authentic people in this world?
I believe so. I think that most people with an easy grasp of human interaction can tell when someone is disingenuous, or when someone is lying, or someone is fake, or someone doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. And so if you're authentic, and this goes for anything, right? I tell a lot of people at my actual full-time job when they're just starting out, like, say, listen, if you don't know it, that's more than fine. Tell people you don't know it. Ask questions. Be willing to learn. I guarantee you'll have a better reaction to that than if you half-ass know something or pretend to know, because everyone can tell, especially people that have been doing it for longer than you. So that's a huge thing. I think you should always be authentic, be who you are, and never compromise who you are either, right? If someone says you come off too strong, sure, you can limit that a little bit, but if you're a generally friendly, warm person, always be that genuinely friendly, warm person. Maybe back down how loud you are, but you should never stop being who you are based on something someone else says.
I think that's great advice. I think if everyone was striving to be an authentic and real person, we would be in a much better place in terms of society. So I think that's really good advice, and thanks for saying it. And so with that being said, what advice would you give to people out there, to young adults out there that want to be content creators?
Just start. You're never going to have the perfect time. You're never going to have the perfect idea. You're never going to have the perfect video, right? My video that has done the best, arguably, well, not arguably, it has done the best at 150,000 views. I make a pretty significant mistake in it, and I did not think it would be the video that did well, but that's what that algorithm picked up that day. So just, excuse me, threw up my mouth. Just start, right? There's nothing worse that you could do than to be trapped in your own mind. A lot of people want to do stuff like this, and they're like, oh, I don't have the right idea. I don't have the right equipment. I don't, shut the fuck up. Go do it. That's my best advice. Just go do what you want to do. And if you try it out for a month or two and you don't like it, there's absolutely nothing wrong with stopping. But if you try it out for a month or two and you believe that you can do it, and you believe you want to do it, and you think it's a worthwhile thing to do, don't let anybody tell you no. And to be honest, no one really does tell you no, except people on YouTube. Again, YouTube's the worst, but no one really tells you that you can't do it. But just try, right? Just start, pick up equipment as you go. I would also say my advice is, if you know you want to do it, still don't spend a ton of money up front, right? It's okay to buy some equipment, because you may need some equipment, but usually the $50 microphone will do just fine when you start out, because not that many people are listening to you.
Right.
You can get to that $1,000 microphone at some point, but that's only after you've proven yourself.
Right. Right. And there was so much in there. I think that, screw the excuses. Like if you have an idea and you're making excuses on why you can't do it, that is your brain lying to you. So you need to get over it and you need to get started. I think that that's really good advice. And something that I've struggled with and something that you're talking about is when is the right time to not only invest your time, but also invest your money in your idea. Can you answer that for us? It's not a closing question, but I'm interested.
No, sure. So I have actually changed my opinion on this a little bit over the last year. So I've been doing this for almost exactly 1 year. 8/1 was my first stream. So almost exactly 1 year. I would say if you believe it's a thing you want to do, then yeah, you should start with spending just enough money to get you started, right? Which some people, let's use streaming, for example, you can get started streaming with just a Xbox or PlayStation. They have a Twitch app, you download it, you go right from there, right? No problem. You don't have to spend any money for that. But I would say spend just enough to get started. So like for your podcast, you should probably have a really good microphone, right? So spend the money, the $100-$200 on a microphone. And then everything after that, I take the money generated from what I do to put it back into it. So they're completely two separate streams of income, right? I have my personal work money that pays for everything in my life. The Twitch money does not pay for stuff I want. Mm-hmm. I always say you should put that into something that benefits the viewer, right? So a lot of people, if they get $100, $150, they'll go buy a new monitor, for instance, so their game looks better to them. That doesn't help the viewer. That doesn't help anybody on the other end. What you should do is spend that $150 on a better camera, better lighting, a better microphone, on a logo from an actual graphic designer, on an editor like I have. I always try to treat that Twitch money as its own thing, and all of that goes back into content creation until we're to a point where I'm making enough money where I can spend things out of that.
Yeah, I think it's a really winning model, and I don't think a lot of people do that, and I think that that's a losing model. You really need to, the money that's generating from your side hustle, you should spend that on your side hustle, and like you said, until you can start paying yourself, and then. That's a goal that you set. That's a number that you set, whatever that is. But it's not $100. It's a significant amount of money. So
no,
I think that's really big. And so moving to the next closing question, we're going to take content creation out of the conversation for a moment and just talk to Taylor for a second. What is something that Taylor is trying to figure out as a young adult?
Oh, boy. So as a young adult, I'm trying to figure out how to prove myself in my career right now. I would say this is the biggest thing. I feel like I know a lot of people try and find themselves as a young adult. I feel like I did that already in high school and college, so I don't have to worry about that. So we haven't talked about it at all, but I have a pretty demanding career. Right now, I'm on a team of people that is managing a $680 million project.
Huge.
That's building a Facebook data center. It is huge. And so when you're doing something like that, which is a pretty high level professional gig, I want to succeed. How do I make myself valuable to my team? How do I make myself someone that needs to be moved ahead on merit and not on time at the company, right? Because there's a lot of people, if you're in any kind of professional setting, that have been promoted because of time in the company, and they're trash people, right? I want to be promoted because I deserve it. And there's actually a really good quote that I got from an electrician recently that I think would be good to share. Give me 1 second. I'll tell you.
Yeah. And while you're finding that.
It applies to this.
Yeah. While you're finding that, I think that's really important. I think more industries out in the world, if you are a leader, if you're listening to this and you're like a career leader, more people, more industries need to value experience and merit over seniority and time, right? Because time and seniority, those things can fall through pretty easily, right? But merit and effort, those things don't fall through. They don't fall through the cracks. They're too large to fall through the cracks. And so I think if you're a career leader out there, hear that, because it's really important. What's your quote? Did you find it?
Yeah, so this was told to me by actually someone that works under my company. So my company hires a lot of trade partners, we call them, that actually do the physical work. So we don't do any physical work. We're kind of useless. He's an electrician, and honestly, the quote, you'll understand once you hear the quote, but he's the most useful person on site. If I ever need anything, I know I can go to this person and only this person, and they will get it figured out in a timely manner, and they'll get back to me with what I need. Right. So their quote was, the goal is not to be successful. The goal is to be valuable. Once you're valuable, instead of chasing success, it will attract itself to you.
Ooh. So what does that mean to you?
I really like that. To me, that just means that if your goal is to move up in a company or make more money or whatever, it applies to anything, right? It's you need to be useful to other people. And that's how you become the guy, right? Everybody knows that there's a person at their company that you go to if you have a question. And if you just become useful, if you become knowledgeable, if you become helpful, you'll be that person and you will naturally rise up through the ranks.
That's huge. I think that is a perfect quote and a perfect analysis of that quote. And so getting into the last closing question, the best closing question, the shameless plug question. Where can people learn more about Taylor and more about T-Bone?
Sure. So there's a name change coming soon. We're working on it right now. You got to find one that's not being used, which is a struggle. But Twitch is probably the best place to go if you want to see me live. It's T-Bone 57975797. But if you want to go anywhere else, I would actually say YouTube, because YouTube, you can go when I'm not live and see my videos, both the full length videos and the short little clips. So subscribe to me on YouTube. I'm trying to hit my first 100 subscribers on YouTube because I started that channel late. I only recently started a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So we're pretty close, but yeah, the YouTube is just T-Bone, TBONE 5797. And there you can see my short under 1 minute clips. And also my longer, well-edited videos that are not edited by me because I'm trash at editing videos.
Nice. Well, thank you, Taylor. I really appreciate your time. I think you're incredible. I think that the listeners are going to learn a lot from your story, not in content creation and gamer streaming. I think that we really had a really good conversation. So make sure that you go follow T-Bone5797, and also make sure that you go follow How to Adult TW on Facebook and Instagram. And also make sure that you're sharing all the content. Make sure that we can get into the ears of other people that I don't know, because that's the goal. We want to get into ears of people that we don't know. We want more people to join Taylor's streaming as well. And so with all that being said, y'all, we are going to learn how to adult together.